When making a repair on a wood finish, graining comes after establishing the basic background wood tone color. There are a few techniques you should know concerning reproducing a grain pattern in a repaired area. First, one must analyze the texture of the grain. For example, unfilled oak has a depression where the vast majority of the major grain lines exist. These, of course, are the pores of the wood. Recall that if you apply a filler like a burn-in, a wax stick, or an epoxy fill, wherever the grain pattern formerly existed, you must restore the depressions as well as the color. Also, the grains must be drawn in the same pattern as the original grain would have been. This is just a piece of paper made to represent a grain pattern magnified several times. First, although the grain pattern curves in relation to the side of the wood, each individual grain is parallel to the edge of the wood. Therefore, it would be an error to draw the individual grains on an angle to the edge of the wood, such as the lines shown here. Rather, draw each individual grain parallel with the edge of the wood and angle the pattern by the placement of the individual lines. Secondly, there are heavy or dark lines, and there are light or thin lines. In most cases, it is obvious where the heavy lines belong versus where the thin lines belong. It's just a matter of observation. Thirdly, make sure you connect the major grain line patterns, especially if your repaired area is rather wide. Use these techniques whether you're drawing grain with a brush, a graining pen, shading pencils, or a blend-all stick. Graining pens and shading pencils are very straightforward as to how they are applied. Here, we are using a graining pen to restore the lines over an application of a background marker. Here, we are adding grain with a shading pencil. Brushing on grain takes a bit of practice. Make sure you are using a liquid that is low in viscosity so thin lines are easy to draw. Use a very slim brush. After you dip the brush in the liquid you'll use, wring out the brush before trying to apply thin lines. As with the other graining tools, the goal is to match the color of the existing grain and to fill in the pattern of the existing grain.